Cool. Welcome, willkommen, bienvenue, welcome once again. This is Body Confidence Wellness with Justine and Blanchard. My name is Gareth Wax of the Many Purple Hats, and we often discuss various topics around how you deal with yourself, how to get the best out of your life, mostly by just looking at yourself from a slightly different angle, or for dealing with what you normally deal with on a day-to-day basis slightly differently. And today's question is something that keeps coming up. Constantly seeing people referring to self-care. And I'm a little confused about exactly what it is. Now, yes, I know it's the obvious, some of the obvious things, taking time out of your busy day and making sure you drink enough fluids, etc. But I suspect it's a bit more than that. Justine, please.
Well, it is and it isn't, I mean, we were talking before about how it means something different to lots of people, but, essentially it is what you've just said. It is taking time out. It is drinking enough water. So well done you for taking a sip of water and when you had the chance. It is a lot of things to a lot of different people. I think the important thing to think about is, self-care is caring for yourself. I mean, the name is basically written on the tin, to care for yourself is to have some self-care. So it is going to mean something different to lots of people.
But does it mean not necessarily relying on other people to do the caring for you? Because oftentimes, like a long day at work, come home and you're reliant on your significant other to boost you back up again, or you're reliant on some other thing to boost you back up again. Is it that, or is it something else?
It's not that. Also, I mean, self-care is also having the right community and the right support system around you. It's having an awareness to know who you might need to call upon, who you might want to call upon. So I mean, because we never want to be draining on other people. We don't want to be draining on ourselves. We don't want to be draining on other people. But self-care is certainly knowing who the right people are to surround ourselves with, who can boost us up. There are the energy vampires of this world, and we certainly don't want to be one of them, do we?
Never. Not knowingly, certainly. But
No.
I know that some people with the best will in the world, they interact with you, but because they are so keen and full of dynamism, they can have one or two effects just by having them within your aura, if you like. They can bring you right up to their level, or they can suck the oxygen out the room. So you feel like after they've passed by like a hurricane, that you're left there like a husk.
Yes. So we definitely don't want to be one of those people. So we want to, employ the tools for our own self-care so we can be part of the community and the support system, because these are, two-way relationships, of course. One of the things that you and I talk about a lot, and I talk about a lot with clients, with networks, with communities, with friends, with everybody, is just how everything starts with the self. So if you think about, self-awareness, self-control, self-esteem, self-worth, self-compassion, self-care, all of these things start with the self. So it's really important to know what it is that we need for ourselves, so we know what tool to pull out of our toolkit when it comes to self-care. So that's really what I meant at the beginning when we were talking about it is a lot of things to a lot of people. For some people, getting a good night's sleep or getting enough water, drinking enough water, like for some people, that is going to be the level of self-care that they can handle. For other people, it might be, going a lot deeper into coaching or therapy or, shadow work or really going under the surface kind of thing. So it is going to completely depend on what the individual needs, of course.
It just strikes me, I hear a lot of people talking about how they want to help this person or why they want to support that person, what compassion they have for hearing this story or that story. But they don't necessarily think about the fact that they're constantly putting themselves under pressure and that they're not even making enough time so they can support themselves. How are they going to give all that compassion and support to others if they're not supporting themselves as well?
That's a great question. And, and there are many, many, many coaches and many workshops and seminars and talks and all sorts of things
Oh, yes, there are.
That start with, you have to put on your own oxygen mask first. And I think I probably swore to myself that I would never start a conversation with that, but actually that's the reality of it, as humans, as partners, friends, as part of other people's support systems, as part of our own support systems, as part of a family, a community, anything, we do really have to look after ourselves first, because we can't care for anybody else unless we're caring for ourselves.
It just strikes me that modern people are always seemingly, except for those lucky ones that seem to have escaped it all, always seem to be under pressure from something. There's an awful lot of pressure. Well, even, the obvious one is social media, but let's moving away from that. Just to feel like that you're matching up to the mark that your parents had for you, or that you're doing as well as your siblings, or just there's just any part of the news or television or any of it constantly makes you feel like you're not doing good enough. And I just think that people are often, and I hear them doing it, beating themselves up about what they could have done or what they should have done, or et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So again, this is when we need to know what tools to pull out of our toolkit. If we're kind of getting into a bit of a spiral of not feeling good enough or believing that we're not good enough, then, this is when coaching tools need to come out. For example, if one is starting to think, if there's like a genuine belief of, I'm not good enough because of what other people are thinking, saying, then this is when self-awareness has to come out. And this is when we need to step back and look at the situation and think, okay, actually, whose belief is that? Is that actually genuinely my belief, or has somebody put that belief on me? And then is it true? Because 9 out of 10 times, I bet it's not true. I bet it's not your belief to start off with. And then I bet it's not true because this is somebody else's thought, somebody else's belief. So this is when we need to change our language.
I think there's often a germ of truth in it, but then it's been embroidered upon. So what you end up with is not that you might be struggling a little bit with something, but you just cannot do it. You shouldn't touch it. You should walk in the opposite direction to it. And I think that's just all so counterproductive. I never suffer with this thing that people seem to talk about a lot, which is that thing where I think you mentioned it earlier. You don't feel like you should be doing something or capable of doing something. Imposter syndrome. I never suffer with that. But that's partly because I know what I'm rubbish at. And so I don't try and spend a lot of time doing the stuff that I'm rubbish at. I try and focus on the stuff that I know I'm good at. So it looks like I'm brilliant, but I'm not. It's just I avoid, like the plague, the stuff I know I'm absolutely rubbish at. But once in a while, once in a blue moon, I'm enticed out of that safety into doing something. And sometimes it is terrible. So here's a silly example. My daughter is obsessed by sim rigs. That's it looks like a racing car in her living room. It's quite literally, with a big screen, and she's racing the rest of it. And I have terrible hand-eye coordination. I'm dyspraxic. I find it very hard to deal with things moving around the screen. I'm just not good at that sort of stuff. but she encouraged me and all her friends to all try and set times doing lap times around, and I was terrible. And it was like I knew before I sat down in the chair that I was going to struggle with. And I tried my best, but I just couldn't keep it. I couldn't do what it was needed. Whereas I know that if I stuck with my safe zone of doing just the stuff I know I'm good at, I'd always be happy. But I think sometimes you've got to push yourself outside of the safety zone, and you've got to be willing to learn from that. And my learning wasn't just that I shouldn't do that again. I think I will try it again, but maybe get a bit of practice, get a little bit better, because I quite enjoyed it. It was just I knew I wasn't going to do well. I think you've got to. Because normally, years back, if I'd done that, I'd have gone, that's it, never doing that again. So I could have learned that it's okay not to do brilliantly at something. It's okay, you know?
Yeah, I think you completely answered your own question in there. because, because I was going to say, but did you enjoy it? Did you have fun doing it?
I quite liked being in the seat, feeling like I'm in control of this honking great monstrous car, driving around and all the rest of it. I did initially felt a pang of, well, I'm just not good enough at the end. And then I had a quick word with myself and said, but in the real scheme of things, it doesn't matter. Did you enjoy any part of it? And I thought to myself, yeah, I quite did. I liked the trying to harness all these many horses and drive them around this. No. Could I get a little bit better? Probably. Would I mind trying? No, I'll give it another go. So, yeah, I'm going to go back and give another go. But it just goes to show, Justine, that you can change in your own attitudes towards these things. That the self-care in this example was, rather than looking to pull myself apart, how terrible I was, what a fool I was to even think I could do all right. Rather than that, was thinking, well, let's break it down as the sum of the parts. There were parts of it I didn't like at all, but there were parts of it I really enjoyed. Do you want to do those parts again? Yes, I'll do that. So, you know what I mean? I think what I've learned is that every time I beat myself up about something, so I used to do that a long time ago. I used to do that. I just felt worse. Yeah, but I felt worse. It didn't achieve anything. The only thing that affected was me feeling worse. Now I feel much the same as I did, but I appreciate there were elements that I did enjoy. So I will try it again. I guess maybe there's something in there for all of us, because oftentimes to maintain our own self-care, we'll avoid doing anything that we think was questionable or that we're going to struggle at, without realizing that sometimes the struggle can have its own rewards, just the struggly bit.
Absolutely. It is about learning the lessons, stepping back, observing, seeing what went right, what didn't go right, what can be improved, where can you learn, it very, very much, so we've just watched you self-coaching yourself.
Well, it's through listening to you in part. That's
good.
Well, yes, I do listen occasionally. The thing is, where I've changed over the years, or it's not really a change, where I think age and gaining wisdom through talking to people like your good self is, it's not a negative to have not achieved a full success in something. Often the journey was good fun, and I used to be the kind of person that said, well, I like traveling, but I only like the arriving and the doing at the other end. The bit that got me there, I found just really boring. So now I'm finding ways to find that intervening bit interesting as well. So therefore, instead of me saying, well, I can't be asked, I'm actually looking forward to all of it rather than just parts of it. And I think that's all. It's all about reframing, isn't it? Really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It really all starts with language. So affirmations, the right questions, the right observations, the reframing. It very much starts with, it's everything that we talk about, because the language that we use really does form the thoughts, the behaviors, and by changing the words that we use, we can actually change our brain's chemistry. We change the thoughts and the beliefs and the way in which we act on those things. So then
it's
change
not just
our behaviors.
Yeah, it is. It's very important to realize that by making these small changes, you are doing more than just changing thoughts. You're changing the way in which your body works. There's a physiological impact here, isn't there?
Yeah.
Wow.
There is, absolutely. So, so bringing it back to the topic of self-care, that's where we're saying it's everything and it's nothing. It's something different to everybody. So for some people, it might be rewarding oneself with a manicure. For some people, it might be taking 6 sessions with a coach. For some people it might be a year-long therapy. For some people it might be going back to university and changing careers, because they know ultimately that's going to change what happens in their lives or their lifestyle. So it's lifestyle, it's everything that starts from here. It's ourself. It's looking after ourselves first.
How do we know when we need to take some time for self-care?
You just do every day. We just do. We have to, stopping something as small as stopping for 5 breaths is self-care. Stopping to take a sip of water, like you've done a couple of times in this chat, that's self-care. So just being aware to look after ourselves. I put out a post earlier today about, the things that it isn't and the things that it is, which is a little bit kind of divisive, because even I just said, in the post, I said, it's not your bath bombs and your jade rollers and stuff like that.
That's the point about that is that's the more, that's the facile sort of self-care. That's the easy, obvious stuff.
But here I am saying that it is, because it could be going for a manicure. So it could be that, but it is also going a lot deeper. It is going a lot deeper, getting to the root cause of where we are, and it can be messy, and it can be difficult, and it can be, hard. And we can, for a short period of time during that, end up being the vampires on our friends and family while we're going through our healing process. But then we come out the other side, and then we're the radiators, because, we've done the work, and we know what we need to do. So how do you know if you need self-care? The answer is you just do. You need it every single day, because our self is here every single day.
Yes. There's the one constant in one's life is in oneself. And to quote someone, if you can't love yourself, how can you love anyone else? You've got to be able to find the way to look after this corporal and mental being here, so that you wake up each morning seeing the opportunities rather than bemoaning the losses. I think that's absolutely it. Absolutely it. Look after yourselves, guys.
Yes. My favorite quote is, to love oneself is to start a lifelong romance. Oscar
Wilde. Very nice. Is that Oscar Wilde? Is it?
That is Oscar Wilde. Yeah. To love what I think I'm not sure if I'm getting it exactly right, but to paraphrase, to love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance.
To misquote Stephen Fry, he wrote a book all about quotations. He says, actually, the misquoting of quotations is an art form in itself. Misquoting in some ways shows that you actually read the whole thing and had an opinion that was truly yours, and that's what you've done. To quote again Oscar Wilde, you have to be yourself, because everyone else is taken. Yes, Oscar Wilde, heavily quotable fella. as ever, talking with Justine is always a beacon of good light. And as you see there, I posed myself questions and even answered them within the same conference. But
I just want to be here to inspire you, Gareth.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's wonderful to be inspired. Guys, if you want to perhaps get someone else to have a window into what it is that's holding you back, and maybe find that quite right body confidence, then you should talk to my dear friend, the Body Confidence Buddy. That's this. Oh, wrong way. This lady over here. I think at least an initial chat of half an hour or so, which costs not a penny. Am I right?
Correct.
And in that time, hopefully, you'll, between you, come up with revelations and thoughts that will mean that you're better off for it. And also, there's a whole bunch, which we'll talk about in a different podcast coming soon. There's a whole bunch of other areas that come underneath body confidence wellness, of which this sort of conversation is but one of them. I wish you all strength of character, thoughtfulness of attitude, and of course, great mental health. Until next time, goodbye.